Sitting in New York Airport was not the most pleasant way to spend an evening, Max thought, as he watched the boarding process for what he hoped would be his flight home to Charlotte. Max, along with his two sisters, owned a small pharmaceutical company created by their father several decades earlier. His father had developed a series of valuable but rarely used drugs that made the company profitable but never offered much room for growth. After his parents had passed away, Max had spent the last few days in New York negotiating the sale of the company to a major pharmaceutical concern. Today, Max and his team of lawyers and brokers closed the deal and left it to the lawyers to complete the paperwork. Max hoped he would make it home that night, but it looked doubtful. The last flight of the day to Charlotte was fully booked, and he was third on the wait list. He didn't call his wife Camilla because he didn't know what to tell her. He sat at the bar where he could watch the gate and drank his second gin and tonic, thinking about the deal and the money he and his sisters would share. Something over $10 million for him, plus a well-compensated transition period with Big Pharma, meant a new lifestyle for him and Camilla. Their twin girls were already out of the nest, or at least on their way. Both were in college, juniors at Duke, where tuition was eating him alive. But all this would change when the deal with the pharmaceutical company closed. Meanwhile, the boarding process was ending, and the agents at the gate were ushering the last passengers onto the plane. Then, a small miracle happened. The boarding sign changed, and Max saw that his name appeared on the waiting list. He threw the money on the bar, waved to the bartender, who gave him a thumbs up, grabbed his briefcase and duffel bag, and ran for the exit. The agent at the gate handed him his boarding pass and quickly explained to him and two other passengers that the group of four who had checked in remotely had not shown up, so they were given seats. Max ran down the plane with his new buddies, and when he got to the gate, he realized he had a first-class seat. A good sign, he thought. I got on the flight. I'm sitting in first class, heading home a day early. This may mean that the pharmaceutical deal will indeed close. The boarding door closed as he boarded, and the flight attendant asked if he wanted something to drink as they taxied to the runway. He felt like he'd earned another drink, so he had another gin and tonic and then fell asleep, dreaming of a future for him and Camilla with enough money to always fly first class. The shock of landing woke him up. He eventually made it to the taxi stand to take a taxi home. He had driven his pickup truck to the airport a few days earlier, but now he was exhausted, a little drunk, and it was really late. Too late to call Camilla to come get him. They lived a few miles outside of Charlotte, so the cab ride was long enough for him to fall asleep again. The driver had to wake him up when they arrived. Max paid him, added a generous tip, and a little sluggishly got out of the taxi. It had been a long, busy day and evening. He was already thinking about getting cozy in bed with Camilla when the taxi pulled away, and he turned toward the house. What he saw stopped him in his tracks and woke him up completely. A gold Mercedes was parked in the driveway in front of his side of the garage. The car seemed like a very fashionable Mercedes, but then all Mercedes seemed fashionable to him. The house was dark. By then, it was past midnight, and Max just stood there for several minutes. He had spoken to Camilla from his lawyer's office around noon, and she had said nothing about late-night visitors. He tried not to think about the unthinkable, tried to create a happy scenario that would allow him to snuggle up to warm, sleepy Camilla in just a few minutes. However, his mind didn't work that way. So he slowly walked towards the door in the passage between the garage and the house. He unlocked it, entered the quiet house, and walked even more slowly through the kitchen and up the stairs to his and Camilla's bedroom. The bedroom door was open, apparently not expecting visitors, and Max stepped inside, and then it closed. There was no other way to express it. His brain stopped working, he stopped breathing, even his heart seemed to stop beating. He saw what he considered unthinkable. Camilla slept, naked, spread out on her side of the bed, with one arm wrapped around the man, who was also sleeping, even smiling slightly in his sleep. Max stood there for what seemed like an eternity, but eventually his brain started working again. He looked again at Camilla's hand, lying across the man, and they both snored. This broke Max's heart. Until that night, he had enjoyed listening to Camilla snore. She was snoring quietly, almost purring, Max thought. He thought her snoring meant she felt absolutely safe, deep in the peaceful sleep that came from sharing a bed and life with Max. He often fell asleep with that soft purring sound in his ears, but that was all. He would never hear that snoring again. never sleep next to her again. Even with his heart broken, Max began to think again. He saw the man's clothes neatly folded, lying on the chair that Max had sat on hundreds of times. Smoldering rage began to flare up inside Max. He pulled up his pants, pulled out his wallet and car keys, then stopped to think a little more. He could get the tennis racket out of the bedroom closet and use it to beat the man up, he decided. He could also beat Camilla. Both of these actions, while satisfying in the short term, could cause big problems for Max in the long term. Another idea began to form in his mind. He took out his cell phone to take some incriminating pictures as the idea germinated and expanded. Max finished taking pictures and then collected all of the man's clothes and shoes. The man was big. Max was 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed about 160 pounds. The man appeared to be at least 4 or 5 inches taller and possibly 50 pounds heavier. Bringing a tennis racket might not have been a wise decision, even in the short term. Max, holding his clothes and shoes, cast one final glance at his wife, his cherished spouse, and the mother of his beloved daughters. He steeled himself against the love that had sustained him for over 2 decades. Without shedding a tear, he left the bedroom and descended the stairs to the outside. The key fob beeped and the doors of the Mercedes opened. Max placed his briefcase and duffel bag inside before settling into the driver's seat. While he had never been a fan of luxury cars, he found himself enjoying the drive, especially around the curves. After driving about a mile, Max pulled over and examined the wallet of the man he referred to as the asshole. Inside were the usual items, some cash, business cards identifying the man as Franklin Thompson, a senior sales manager at a local Mercedes dealership, and a driver's license showing a Charlotte address. Max speculated that if the man had family there, he could cause significant trouble for him, of course, and perhaps for Camilla as well. However, at that moment, Max was fatigued and decided to head to the nearest motel for some rest. Camilla Tronder was a cautious individual. She acknowledged that she was not as intelligent as her husband Max, but her discretion allowed her affair with Franklin Thompson to last nearly 5 months without Max suspecting anything. As she lay in bed with Franklin the following morning, she contemplated that he was skilled in bed, though not quite on par with Max. She concluded that it was time to end the affair, as Franklin was becoming overly possessive. While she had allowed him to spend the night, she resolved that it would be the final time. She intended to spend the remainder of her life with Max and found the idea of having another man in their marital bed, even if Max remained unaware, to be too disrespectful. She planned to inform Franklin later that day that their affair was over before heading to the shower. Upon returning to the bedroom to dress, Camilla encountered Franklin, who had just emerged from the shower with a towel wrapped around his waist. He inquired about the whereabouts of his clothes, to which Camilla denied moving them. As Franklin searched the guest room and downstairs, he realized his clothes and car were missing. Panicked, he suggested that someone had intruded during the night and stolen his belongings. Camilla speculated that it could have been Max, who might have returned from New York while they were asleep. Franklin, alarmed, suggested contacting the police to report a break-in and car theft. Camilla phoned Max's office, where his secretary confirmed that Max was still in New York. Realizing the predicament they were in, Franklin proposed a plan to mitigate the situation. Yesterday, I informed my wife that I had a meeting in Atlanta regarding the new Mercedes S-Class and wouldn't be home until noon. However, upon returning home, I left my keys in the car, which was stolen during my brief stop before heading to the dealership. I believe we can use this situation to our advantage by claiming that my wallet was also in the car and got stolen. We can spend some time here until noon, maybe even taking another shower together. Franklin, I need to call in sick to work. Camille, a paralegal at a small law firm, found her work somewhat dull. After stepping out to make a call, she returned to the bedroom to find Franklin back in bed. Despite the temptation, she declined, considering her recent decision to end the affair with Max. Franklin, she said, making no move to undress, I think it's time to end this. We had a good run, but it could have been Max here last night. We were fortunate it wasn't him. Let's get dressed and grab breakfast somewhere. Franklin, after contemplating trying to persuade her, ultimately agreed with her decision. They were fortunate, but they shouldn't push their luck. Yes, he concurred, recalling another attractive woman who frequented the car dealership. It was a good run, so about those clothes? Finding suitable attire for Franklin proved challenging, given his larger size compared to Max. Camille managed to fashion a makeshift outfit for him, and they decided to pass the time watching TV until it was time to head to Franklin's house. Meanwhile, earlier that morning, Max arrived at the address listed on Franklin's driver's license, where he found a nice house with a bicycle by the garage. Dressed in a rumpled suit and no tie, he held up Franklin's driver's license to a young woman who answered the door. She initially shut the door, but then reopened it, expressing concern for her husband's well-being. Max showed her a compromising photo of her husband and his wife in bed, leading to a tense exchange before she invited him in. As they conversed, her children interrupted, and she excused herself to tend to them. Max stayed behind, reflecting on his situation and engaging in conversation with the woman upon her return. She introduced herself as Molly Thompson, Franklin's current wife, and they discussed their respective marital issues. Max offered to share the incriminating photos with Molly, but she declined, fearing the lasting impact on her psyche. Max assured her he would provide the images if needed and mentioned his impending divorce and change in living arrangements. He suggested sharing his lawyer's contact information for future reference. "You can always contact him if you need photography or any help in a divorce situation," Molly said appreciatively. "But what should we do right now? Are you returning the car? Are you going to wait for Franklin and try to confront him? You've seen him. He's a pretty big guy, even though he's put on a little weight. Yesterday, he was supposed to be in Atlanta for a car meeting and stay overnight. He should be home this afternoon. You know, I kind of like this car, and I've never driven a Mercedes before. I think I'll keep it until someone forces me to return it. Your husband, or as I like to call him, asshole, may have—" Molly chuckled, and Max joined in, both needing the release. "Actually, the car is registered in my name," Molly explained. "For some tax reason, I think more depreciation, Franklin, or should I say asshole, put it in my name since I drive more than he does." She paused thoughtfully, then continued. "Since I own this car, I can issue you a permit to drive, and the cops can call me to confirm if you get pulled over." Max liked the idea but remained silent as Molly was still working out the plan. "And one more thing," she added. "There have been a lot of break-ins in our area lately. You have Franklin's keys and clothes. If the key we're hiding in the backyard is missing when he gets here, he might try to break in. And if our security system is set to instant alert mode, he will attract the police's attention. Molly, I think I'm falling in love again." "You are wonderful," Max expressed his gratitude. Okay, calm down. Franklin can just wait to come back until the kids and I get home from school this afternoon. I can pick them up and go to the park for a while. Let's give him more time to get into even more trouble. Whatever happens, please let me know, especially if he does get into trouble with the police. And call me when you need your car back. I don't want you to get into any trouble. We'll be done. Now you need to get out of here." "And so do I," Molly concluded. Max drove off in a beautiful gold Mercedes, pondering how much the same one, but in a better color, would cost. Molly handed him the permission slip, and he assumed she would retrieve the hidden key, set the alarm, and leave for the rest of the day. Camille and Franklin arrived at Franklin's house around noon. Camille dropped him off and quickly left, as if she was trying to avoid further conflict. Franklin walked to his front door, hoping it might not be locked because Molly was home, but at the same time, fearing she might be there. Of course, it was locked, and he hurried around the house to the rock in the backyard where they kept the spare key. However, the stone was missing. "Oh shit," Franklin muttered, looking at the back of his house, contemplating breaking in. He tried the back door, but it was also locked. Realizing he had no choice, he decided to force his way inside. Surveying the windows along the back wall, he stopped at the window into the family room, the largest at the back. Breaking it would give him more space to enter. He broke a branch from a nearby tree and examined the window. Since he was barefoot, he needed a way to pass through the broken glass safely. He pulled 2 chairs from the back porch and placed them next to the window, planning to climb over them to avoid the glass and enter the living room cautiously. After a few deep breaths, Franklin threw the branch through the family room window, shattering it with a loud crack, followed by the piercing sound of the home alarm system siren. To his dismay, a police car happened to be driving down his street, as Molly had alerted the local police station about potential break-ins in their area earlier that day. Damn, Franklin muttered, attempting to disable the security system, but failing as the police arrived. Police, stop right there and slowly walk away from the house. Raise your hands up, the officers commanded. Franklin complied, slightly cutting his legs as he climbed off the chairs and backed away. Officers, I can explain, he began, but one of the policemen handcuffed him and read out his rights. When asked if he had any identification, Franklin hesitated, explaining that he had lost his car and belongings and needed to get inside for clothes and to make a call. The police officers, skeptical, inquired about his missing car and suggested he might have left it at a bar. Feeling trapped, Franklin proposed they call his wife for identification and assistance at his office. One of the officers took Molly's phone number from Franklin and dialed. Franklin overheard the conversation between the police and Molly. Ma'am, this is Riles from the Charlotte Police Department. We are at the address provided. We have a man here who claims to be your husband. He attempted to break into your house because he lost his clothes. Yes, ma'am? No, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. We will, of course, handle this. Thank you, ma'am. He turned back to Franklin. The lady stated that her husband is in Atlanta, and anyone breaking into her house must be a burglar. She hopes we throw you in jail and throw away the key. But... Franklin was almost in tears as the officers led him to their patrol car to take him to the station. Camilla arrived at her office half a day late, but she planned to make up for lost time. Still thinking about Max, as she hadn't heard from him, she called his cell phone, but received no answer. She then called his office. Hello, Sheila, Camilla here again. I'm starting to get a little worried about Max since I still haven't heard anything from him. And you? No, I have no new information. I assume he's still in New York with the lawyers, but it's unlike him not to call. You do seem a little worried, so I'll call there and check on him, and either he or I will call you back in a few minutes. Fine. Thank you, Sheila. You are the best secretary in the world. A few minutes later, Camilla received a call back. Camilla, this is Sheila. I spoke to one of the secretaries at the law office, and she said Max left late yesterday, hoping to catch the last flight to Charlotte. So I called Max on his cell phone to check on him. I did speak to him, and he asked me to tell you that he would call later. Fine. Thank you, Sheila, Camilla said, disconnected. A sense of unease began to grow in the depths of her stomach. Max hung up after talking to Sheila. He was driving a gold Mercedes to see a divorce lawyer recommended by Fred Thomas, his longtime business lawyer. He trusted his business lawyer and hoped he could trust his divorce lawyer. Mr. Thronder, please take a seat. Miss Reinhardt will be with you in a minute, the secretary informed him. He sat down, somewhat reassured by the lawyer's office. It wasn't extravagantly furnished, but it wasn't cheap-looking either. Before he had time to worry further, a 50-year-old, somewhat plump lady with obviously dyed red hair entered the waiting room. Mr. Thronder? Max stood up and nodded, and she continued. I'm Anna Reinhardt. Fred called and told me to take the best possible care of you. Let's go into my office and discuss your situation. Max followed her into a nice but not luxurious office, took coffee from the secretary, and shared his story. He discovered his wife was cheating, wanted a divorce, and sought to protect his assets, especially the proceeds from the sale of his company and his sister's company. He omitted the part of the story involving the gold Mercedes, though he suspected Anna might find it amusing. Max, is it okay if I call you that? He nodded, and she continued. And I'm Anna. Good news. Well, relatively good news considering your situation. Fred informed me that you and your sisters owned your company before you married your wife, so your shares are considered separate property. Therefore, your wife has no rights to the shares of your company or to the proceeds of the sale. However, you must keep the shares and sale proceeds separate from any joint account you and your wife may have. Is this clear? I believe so. But what about our house, retirement accounts, and the like? Unfortunately, the news isn't as favorable in those areas. Due to your significantly higher salary, you will be required to pay child support for several years. We may be able to avoid contributions to the retirement account by increasing the amount of alimony. While it may not be ideal, the short-term discomfort prevents the potential future burden of having to share your retirement funds. Since your children are in college, there will be no child support. I assume you are willing to cover the rest of their college expenses. Yes, that's acceptable. And what about the house? You and your wife must come to a decision. You can either sell it and divide the proceeds, or one of you can buy out the other's share based on the current appraised value. After what I witnessed last night, I have no desire to keep this house. I don't believe Camilla can afford to purchase my half, so I suppose selling is the best option. All right, I can handle the paperwork accordingly. The divorce petition is a standard form, so I can have it prepared for you by tomorrow, early if you prefer, so we can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon. That's quite prompt. Mr. Thronder, Max, listen to me. If there's a possibility that counseling or some time could help you and your wife. No, it's just a shock for me. Less than 24 hours ago, I was content. I couldn't wait to return home to my wife and share the good news about the company's sale. And now I'm here discussing divorce proceedings. But we must move forward. I'll figure out how to navigate this. Okay, but if you change your mind, just give me a call and we can work through it. Max thanked her, settled the advance payment, and left the office. As he walked back to the gold Mercedes, he pondered the events of the previous night and remembered he had promised his secretary he would call Camilla. Camilla answered the phone in her office at the law firm where she worked. Camilla, this is Max. You called and were looking for me. Oh, Max, thank you for calling. I missed you. Where are you? I'm here in Charlotte, Camilla. I returned last night. The unease in her belly intensified. Last night, Camilla. I came back last night. And the unease turned into dread. Camilla leaned back in her chair. She knew she had to continue the conversation, but she could barely breathe, let alone speak. Camilla, I'm going to hang up now. No, Max, no, she managed to say. Please, can we meet somewhere? I need to see you, just for a few minutes. Max hesitated. This woman was his love, the mother of his daughters, the most important person in his life for over 20 years. Okay, Camilla, let's meet at the Center Cafe at 6, he said. Camilla felt a pang of anxiety. The Center Cafe held special memories for them, as it was where they had first met many years ago. Despite her reservations, she agreed to the meeting. I'll see you there, Max, and please, listen. I'm sorry, and I love you, Camilla said, before Max hung up. As she sat waiting at the cafe, tears welled up in her eyes. Memories flooded back, and her anxiety grew. Camilla arrived early, ordering a glass of wine as she reflected on her past. She recalled her college experiences with football players and the guilt she carried from a disturbing encounter on a plane. These memories haunted her as she waited for Max. When Max arrived, Camilla hoped that their love could overcome the shadows of her past. She had strayed before, but had tried to remain faithful. However, recent events had tested her resolve. A chance encounter with a man named Franklin had led her astray, and she now faced the consequences of her actions. As Max confronted her with questions about her infidelity, Camilla knew that their marriage was hanging by a thread. She admitted to her mistakes, expressing regret and sorrow. Despite her pleas for forgiveness, Max's decision was final. He announced his intention to file for divorce, leaving Camilla devastated. Camilla sat in shock, tears streaming down her face as she processed the end of her marriage. The weight of her actions and the pain of losing Max weighed heavily on her. The snake of guilt coiled tightly in her stomach, a constant reminder of the consequences of her betrayal. Max left the cafe, reminiscing about his first meeting with Camille there decades ago. He pondered if this encounter might mark the end of any intimate conversations between them. The betrayal he felt was overwhelming. To hear his wife confess to sleeping with other men, and to witness her with Franklin, a repulsive figure, in their own bed, was unbearable. Max struggled to come to terms with the situation. While he might have been able to handle the infidelities over the years with counseling and her sincere remorse, the image of her with Franklin in their bed shattered any hope of salvaging their marriage. As he sat in his gold Mercedes, the realization hit him, and he finally let out his pent-up emotions in tears. As darkness fell, Max composed himself, reflecting on a conversation with Molly Thompson earlier that now seemed like ages ago. Molly had advised him against sending her evidence of her husband's infidelity, warning that visual proof would make forgiveness even more challenging. Max decided to call Molly to share his thoughts and discuss the status of the Mercedes. Molly answered the call, expressing gratitude for his concern and allowing him to keep the car for the time being. She revealed that Franklin had been arrested for attempting to break into their home and had a confrontation with the police, resulting in his arrest and a troubling incident in prison. Max sympathized with Molly's situation, but commended her decision not to view the incriminating photos. He encouraged her to stay strong and offered his support. Molly shared that Franklin had returned home, seeking forgiveness, but she planned to assert control over their relationship and finances. Max wished her well and assured her of his assistance with the car. After their call, Max couldn't help but feel envious of Molly's newfound strength. He hoped that Franklin had learned his lesson and that Molly and her children could move forward. Max then headed back to his motel, knowing he had one more task to complete, calling his daughters, Jane and Joan. Upon reaching out to Jane, Max arranged to meet with her and her sister, emphasizing the importance of a private conversation. He cherished his daughters, who were twins studying nursing together. Despite their similarities, he was relieved they weren't identical, as they had a knack for teaming up on him. Max quickly ended the call, eager to see them in person the next day. Meanwhile, Camille was left devastated after Max's departure, realizing the gravity of her actions and the impending fallout. She was consumed by regret, knowing she had jeopardized everything she held dear. Her tears flowed uncontrollably as she grappled with the consequences of her betrayal. Despite the waitress's concern, Camille declined assistance and left the cafe, heading towards a home that was on the brink of collapse. Arriving home, Camille turned to alcohol in a desperate attempt to numb her pain and find a solution to win back Max. As she drifted off to sleep, she clung to the hope of a miracle that could repair the damage done to her marriage. The next morning, Max awaited his daughters at the bistro, uncertain of what the day would bring. He reviewed and approved the draft divorce petition early in the morning, then drove 2 hours from Charlotte, using that time to figure out how and what to say to Jane and Joan. But first, everything proceeded as usual: hugs and kisses, inquiries about school and work, food ordered and eaten, plates cleared, and then finally, a real conversation began. "Girls, we know something is wrong," Joan began. "You look a little sick. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where is Mom?" "It's Mom," Jane interrupted. "She did something terrible. Oh my God. Did she run off with one of her firm's lawyers? A young, strong body that Joni or I should be chasing." Both girls burst out laughing, taken aback by the absurdity of the idea, until they saw that their father was not laughing. "Dad, no, not Mom, no." Joan couldn't finish her fear out loud. "Girls, listen to me carefully. Yes, Mom changed. She cheated on me, but that doesn't mean she cheated on you girls," Max explained. "Yes, that's right, Daddy," Joan said through tears. "If her cheating is destroying our family, then yes, she cheated on us just as much as she cheated on you." Both girls cried, and then Max started crying too. The girls stood up and tried to hug their dad, and hug each other at the same time. "Dad, let's get out of here," Jane said. "There's a park about 2 blocks from here, and we'll have more privacy there." People were staring a bit, so Max quickly paid the bill and they walked into the park, a girl on each side of him, all of them holding each other. "Tell us, Dad," Jane said, after they found a bench to share. "We deserve to hear how bad it is." "You know she's right," Joan intervened. "We are quite mature and can handle this." "On the way here, I was racking my brains over what to tell you," Max began. "I agree. You are both adults, and yes, you are right. Your mother did cheat on all of us. I'm afraid I found my mother at home in our bed with another man, and she later admitted that there had been other men before him. I think I'm still in a bit of shock, but I know that she and I won't be able to recover from this. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer, and Mom is getting a divorce petition today." More tears followed, and then finally silence, as they all contemplated the news and what their future would be like. "Girls, no matter how bad it is, you need to put yourselves and your schoolwork first. I have enough money to pay for your senior year here at Duke, and if either or both of you want to pursue graduate work, I suspect I can find some money for that too. But there is a quid pro quo here." They looked at him. What did he mean? "I'm happy to pay for your education, but I expect you to work hard and get good grades." "Yes, what Mom did makes it difficult to concentrate on school, but you told me that you are adults, and real adults, mature, disciplined people can handle such adversity, right?" They looked at each other, cried again, and hugged him. Yes, Daddy, you are the best. And we absolutely positively will not let you down, Joan encouraged him, while Jane looked thoughtful. Dad, Joan is right. We won't let you down. But what about you? Will you be okay? What are you going to do? Well, you can think about a lot in a 2-hour drive. First, I want you both to know that what you said does not surprise me at all. I know you will continue to do well in school, and I will continue to be proud of you. As for me, what my mother did beat me up pretty bad. I could crawl into a hole and just, suffer, feel sorry for myself, try to find a way to make peace with your mom. But I realized that this doesn't suit me. I've spent my entire adult life caring for other people. When I started working for my grandparents' company, I took care of them. And then, after they left, I took care of my sisters as they owned their shares in the company. And then I took care of my mom, and I took care of you girls. It sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm really not. The company will soon be sold, and this will relieve me of responsibility for my sisters. Camilla left. And you guys, I promise that I will be happy to take care of you, to help you start your adult life. So what? 2 home runs out of 3 in terms of the women in my life. Not bad at all. That leaves me. And guess what? I look at this whole story with betrayal and divorce, not as the worst thing in my life, but as a chance to start a new life. A whole new life dedicated to caring for one person. Me? Fine, Dad? Really? Joan said. I mean, if you really mean what you say, that's great. Jane was a little more skeptical. Dad, what does all this really mean? New life? What? Work for another pharmaceutical company? Are you buying a farm? Good question, and I really have a good answer. No details yet, but this new life will be physical. I'm going to run marathons, climb mountains, swim across the Atlantic, climb the Alps, go on safari. I have a million things I'm going to do, and guess what? While I'm doing these things, I might meet a nice woman doing the same thing, and who knows? Damn it, Dad, this is amazing. Both girls looked at him with their mouths open. This was their father, not some enterprising stallion. Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Charlotte? Asked Jane. Well, yes, partly, but besides, I didn't sleep much, and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead, I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine. Max left his girls with more hugs and kisses and tears as he headed back to Charlotte, still in the gold Mercedes. As soon as Max left, the girls called their mother on the phone. Hello! A creaky voice answered the phone in the Tronders house. Joan put her phone on speaker. Mom, this is Joan and Jane. We had just had breakfast with Dad, and he told us some terrible news. What? What did he say? Divorce was a devastating word, especially due to the betrayal. Dad provided some details, but that was the gist of it. It was true. Girls, this is tough, Mom said, reflecting on her long marriage. This mistake, well, it was a big one. Actually, more than one. But I believe we can work through it. I just need to give your father some time to... Mom, Joan interrupted. Dad mentioned divorce. He didn't talk about fixing the mistake. Mom, he was talking about infidelity, Jane added. Well, technically he's right. But that doesn't mean we can't mend things. I promised him I would do anything. Mom, Jane interjected, I think you're being unrealistic. He mentioned meeting with a divorce lawyer. He made it clear that there was no turning back for both of you. Joan and I don't want to take sides, but you need to face reality. There was a strained silence on the line. Joan and Jane exchanged glances. Should they have gone to Charlotte? Finally, Camilla spoke, barely above a whisper. I know I messed up and destroyed my marriage. I think your father despises me, and rightfully so. I've done despicable things. He advised me to get a lawyer, and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know this is hard for you as well. Mom, don't worry about us, Joan reassured her. We'll be fine. Dad is handling things. You need to take care of yourself. Getting a lawyer sounds like a good idea. Jane and I can come to Charlotte if you need us. Thank you, girls. That's kind of you. I'll be okay. I just need some time to come to terms with my actions. They hung up, leaving the girls uncertain about their next steps. You know, Joan remarked, it's ironic, though not amusing. We're more concerned about Mom, who caused all this chaos, than about Dad. After further discussion, they decided not to return home, allowing their parents to resolve their issues without their involvement. Camilla sat in her Charlotte home, feeling a bit hungover from the gin she had consumed the night before, and deeply saddened after her conversation with her daughters. She knew she had to get up, dress up, and leave the house. Do something, she thought. As she contemplated buying more gin, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, she found a young woman standing there, seemingly chewing gum. "Can I help you?" Camilla inquired. "Yes, ma'am. Are you Camilla Tronder, Max Tronder's wife?" "Yes, that's me. Why do you ask?" "Ma'am, you've been served," the woman said, handing Camilla a folder of documents and taking photographs. "What? What?" Camilla stammered as the woman walked back to her car. Returning to the house, Camilla sat at the kitchen table to examine the folder. When she saw the title of the first document, she nearly fainted. A petition for divorce. She recalled Max's final words to her. "Get a lawyer." As she sat there, gazing at the familiar kitchen she had shared with Max, she realized that the happy days wouldn't return after her betrayal. Camilla was right. She and Max didn't reconcile after her infidelity. 6 years later, at a lavish hotel ballroom, watching Jane dance with her new husband, Camilla delved into the past in her mind. When the girls were teenagers, life seemed unbearable. Too many activities, teenage angst, and boys who were either too cruel or, from Camilla's perspective, too kind to the girls. Max was engrossed in his assistant job, and lawyers were dull. Life had been overwhelming then. But now she longed for it. Still working at the same law firm, buried in monotonous paperwork, she daydreamed. "Camilla, here's your wine," her companion Carl said. Carl, a kind middle-aged, slightly portly, balding lawyer who had escorted her to Jane's wedding, was a sweet man. "Thank you, Carl. You're kind, and thanks for the wine." He was a nice man, and she could envision marrying him if he were interested, but he was no Max. Glancing across the room at Max, who had just returned from a mountaineering trip to Nepal, Camilla thought he resembled a bronze Greek god statue, tanned, incredibly fit, even more handsome than she remembered. He was smiling and chatting with Joan and her boyfriend, holding hands with a woman as stunning and fit as Max. Joan had informed her that Max had met the woman on another mountaineering expedition in South America, and they had been traveling, sailing, and climbing together for months. Camilla felt nauseous at the thought. "Camilla," Carl tried to get her attention. "Yes, Carl? Camilla, I think we should leave. You've fulfilled your duties as the mother of the bride, and lingering here, fixated on your ex-husband, isn't helping you, and I dare say it's not beneficial for our relationship with you. Carl, you're kind, and you're absolutely right. Let me say goodbye to my daughters, and we'll go." Camilla hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds well, and despite the difficulty, ignored Max and his attractive girlfriend. Max noticed Camilla as she exited the hall, feeling a twinge of sadness for their past together. While he watched her, Joan asked him about a peculiar gold Mercedes he had driven when they had breakfast together at Duke. "Ah, Joni, that's a long story I won't bore you with. Let's just say I borrowed that odd gold Mercedes from a friend and ended up returning it to her. I believe she sold it. It was truly an unlucky car," Max explained before turning to his friend to discuss their upcoming mountain trip. Subscribe to our channel to ensure that your second half remains faithful. Also, stay tuned for the next story, as it promises to be even more captivating than the current one.